My name is Caleb Vance, and for the last 5 years, I have been a professional doormat. I dedicated my life to pursuing Elena Sterling, the icy CEO of Sterling Corp., with pathetic devotion. Today, her father, Richard Sterling, a legendary shark in the business world, finally sought me out. He didn't waste time with small talk. He slammed a check onto the mahogany table. $50 million. Leave my daughter. I stared at the long string of zeros, my heart skipping a beat. 5 years. I hadn't even held Elena's hand, and now someone was offering me $50 million to quit. Was this real life? I held back tears of joy, accepted the check on the spot, and promised to stay far away from his daughter. I thought that once I took the money and ran, I could start a life of luxury and leisure. But I didn't realize that I was actually a character who had crossed over into a novel, and Elena was the protagonist. When I finally gave up on trying to win her heart, the plot of this world began to spiral in a direction no one could have predicted. $50 million. Leave my daughter. Inside the high-end coffee shop, the middle-aged man sitting across from me wore a bespoke Italian suit, his presence suffocating. Richard Sterling. I looked at the thin slip of paper on the table. The number written on it felt heavy as a mountain. $50 million. I had been a lapdog for 5 years. Rain or shine, I delivered artisanal coffee to Elena every morning. When she was sick, I was the first to the hospital. When she worked late, I waited in the lobby until midnight. I drank for her at business dinners, took the blame for her mistakes, and let myself be humiliated like a clown in front of her many suitors. The result, I hadn't even held her hand. My brain spun rapidly. Over these 5 years, I had spent all my savings on Elena. My bank account balance was currently in the triple digits. My parents were still living in a rundown house in Ohio, their health failing. $50 million could give them a peaceful retirement and free me from this hopeless existence. Caleb, I've had you investigated, Richard said, his voice carrying undeniable authority. You're a smart kid. You should know that you and my daughter are from different worlds. This money is more wealth than you could earn in 10 lifetimes. It's enough for you and your family to live like kings. He thought I would hesitate. He thought I would struggle or show some display of undying loyalty to love. I looked up, my eyes instantly filling with tears, my voice choked with the pain of being crushed by reality. Mr. Sterling, you are insulting me. Elena and I are truly in love. I had to sell the performance. Richard looked at me, a flicker of contempt passing through his eyes, as if looking at a delusional jester. Truly in love. He sneered. She doesn't even remember your birthday. The flowers you send are thrown out by her assistant before they even reach her desk. That is your true love? Everything he said was a fact. Every word felt like a knife to the heart. But I couldn't break character yet. I stood up abruptly, hands slamming onto the table, my body trembling with feigned anger. Is money all that matters? In your eyes, can every emotion be measured in dollars? 5 minutes. My time is precious, Richard said, glancing at his Patek Philippe watch, ignoring my outburst. I took a deep breath, acting as if I were making the most difficult decision of my life. I sat down slowly, reached out a trembling hand, and agonizingly pulled the check toward me. Then, under Richard's gaze, I snatched the check and stuffed it into my jacket pocket with lightning speed. The movement was so fast he barely registered it. Mr. Sterling, don't worry, I said, wiping away my tears and looking solemn. From this day forward, if I, Caleb Vance, ever actively contact Elena Sterling again, may I be struck by lightning. I will disappear. I will vanish from her world completely. Richard was stunned. He had probably prepared a whole speech to counter my begging or bargaining, but he never expected me to agree so crisply. I stood up and gave him a respectful, slightly theatrical bow. Thank you for the opportunity, sir. I wish you good health and booming business. With that, I didn't look back. I rushed out of the coffee shop, terrified he might change his mind. Once I hit the street, my heart was still pounding wildly. I pulled the check from my pocket and held it up to the sun. The zeros were beautifully real. Freedom. No more waking up at 5:00 a.m. to line up for that specific bagel place she likes. No more forcing a smile at Elena's ice-cold face. I pulled out my phone and unhesitatingly blocked Elena on every platform. iMessage, WhatsApp, Instagram. Deleted and blocked. The world instantly felt quieter. I hailed a cab right there on the curb and went straight to the bank. When the teller looked at me like I was insane while verifying the check, and finally confirmed that $50 million had been deposited, I felt like I was dreaming. Walking out of the bank, the sun was shining perfectly. The first thing I did was call my parents back in Ohio. Dad, quit the construction job. It's too hard on you. And tell Mom to stop cleaning houses. On the other end, my dad paused, his voice raspy. What kind of nonsense is that? If we don't work, how are you going to afford a wife? I made it big, Dad. I grinned, tears flowing uncontrollably. Seriously, I just wired $5 million to your account. Buy a big house, eat good food. I'll figure out the rest. Hanging up, I squatted by the roadside, crying and laughing like a fool. 5 years. The humiliation of those 5 years was worth it. The next day, I slept until I woke up naturally. Sunlight streamed through the gap in the curtains. I opened my eyes, feeling a momentary disorientation. No need to wake up early. No need to agonize over what flavor of latte to bring Elena. The feeling was strange, yet incredibly comfortable. I picked up my phone and opened a travel app. The world is big, and I want to see it. Before, that was just an inspirational quote. Now it was my reality. I booked a first-class ticket to Aspen, Colorado. I packed a few clothes and was ready to go. Just as I was humming a tune and dragging my suitcase to the doorbell rang. I was confused. Who would come at this hour? I looked through the peephole and froze. Standing outside was Elena's personal assistant, Chloe. Flanking her were 2 bodyguards in black suits and sunglasses, looking menacing. My heart skipped a beat. Did Richard change his mind? Was he here to take the money back? I immediately deadbolted the door and pretended no one was home. Caleb, I know you're in there. Open the door. Chloe's voice came through the wood, laced with anxiety and impatience. If you don't open up, we'll pick the lock. Ms. Sterling wants to see you. Ms. Sterling? Which Sterling? The father or the daughter? My mind raced. If it was Richard, I wouldn't open the door, even if it killed me. If it was Elena, what did she want? Caleb, what the hell are you playing at? Why did you block the CEO? Chloe was still shouting. I steeled myself and opened the door. Can I help you, Chloe? I leaned against the doorframe, projecting laziness. Chloe stared at me, stunned for a moment, then frowned. She probably hadn't seen me this relaxed before. In the past, whenever I was in front of her or Elena, I was always visibly eager to please. Caleb, why didn't you bring Miss Sterling her breakfast yesterday? She demanded, as if I had committed a capital crime. I almost laughed out loud. Why should I bring her breakfast? I asked. Chloe was taken aback. She opened her mouth, seeming to find the question absurd. Aren't you always? That was the past. I interrupted her. Not anymore. Chloe's face turned ugly. She looked me up and down, her eyes full of suspicion. What do you mean? Caleb, are you playing hard again? Let me tell you, Ms. Sterling hates these games. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. She thought I was using some tactic to get Elena's attention. She had no idea I had taken the money and cashed out. No hidden meaning. Just literally what I said. I shrugged. From now on, Ms. Sterling and I go our separate ways. If there's nothing else, I have a plane to catch. I moved to close the door. Stop. Chloe panicked, stepping into the entryway to block me. Ms. Sterling ordered you to come to her office. Immediately. I looked at her and laughed. She tells me to go, so I go. Chloe, are you confused? I'm not her employee, and I'm not her servant. If she wants to see me, tell her to come here herself. Chloe's face went white with rage. Caleb, don't be ungrateful. I'm being ungrateful. What are you going to do about it? I completely let go. I had the money. What was I afraid of? I sidestepped her, dragging my suitcase out the door. The 2 bodyguards immediately stepped forward, blocking my path. The atmosphere instantly tensed. I looked at them, calculating. If it came to a fight, I'd lose. But this was a lawful society. They wouldn't dare do much. Move, I said, my voice turning cold. Mr. Vance, please come with us, one of the bodyguards said expressionlessly. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. Caleb, where are you? The voice on the other end was Elena's, cool and crisp. It was the first time in 5 years she had actively called me. Hearing Elena's voice, I didn't feel a shred of excitement. Instead, I just felt annoyed. What do you want? My tone was flat, like I was talking to a stranger. Silence hung on the line for a few seconds. She probably didn't expect me, the man who usually obeyed her every whim, to speak to her like that. Why didn't you come yesterday? Her voice carried a trace of barely undetectable grievance. I paused and found it funny. Grievance? The high and mighty Ice Queen CEO had feelings. Why should I come? I threw Chloe's question right back at her. Caleb, her voice rose, tinged with anger. What kind of crazy episode are you having? No breakfast, blocking me, and now this attitude. Do you think this is fun? It's not fun, I answered honestly. So I decided to stop playing. What do you mean? It means, Elena, we are done. I enunciated every word clearly. From now on, you take your high road, and I'll take my path. Do not contact me again. I hung up immediately. The hallway was dead silent. Chloe and the 2 bodyguards looked at me like I was an alien. They had probably never seen anyone dare speak to Elena Sterling like that, let alone hang up on her. Chloe's mouth hung open in an O shape. Crazy. You are absolutely crazy, she muttered. I ignored her, dragged my suitcase around them, and walked straight to the elevator. This time, the bodyguards didn't stop me. They were likely stunned by my behavior and froze. As I stepped into the elevator and hit the close button, I saw Chloe snap out of it and rush forward, but it was too late. The door slid shut, cutting off her shocked and angry face. I leaned against the elevator wall and exhaled a long breath. That felt good. Paying back 5 years of indignity in one go felt better than earning $50 million. I dragged my luggage out of the complex, hailed a ride, and headed straight for the airport. Sitting in the spacious first-class seat, sipping champagne offered by the flight attendant, I felt like my life was finally beginning. As the plane took off, I watched the city shrink below me, and the last lingering attachment to the past vanished like smoke. Goodbye, Elena Sterling. Goodbye to my pathetic past. However, I didn't know that the moment I hung up the phone in the CEO's office of Sterling Corp, Elena was gripping her phone so hard her knuckles turned white. For the first time, a look of panic appeared on her exquisite face. Just a moment ago, memories that didn't belong to her suddenly flooded her brain. Plot deviation detected. Character Caleb has abandoned the route. Narrative stability decreasing. Protagonist halo weakening. World stability critical. A series of cold, mechanical voices rang in her mind, splitting her head with pain. She didn't understand what it meant, but she had a terrible premonition. Caleb leaving would bring terrifying consequences. She remembered yesterday, when Caleb didn't bring breakfast. She had been distracted all day and signed several contracts incorrectly. She remembered just now, Caleb speaking in that strange, icy tone, and a panic she had never known surged in her chest. Chloe, she grabbed the landline, her voice cracking with urgency. Investigate. Find out where Caleb is right now. Find him and bring him back at any cost. My days in Aspen were carefree. I hiked the trails, visited the boutiques, and stared at the mountains. I didn't have to consider anyone else's feelings. I lived only for myself. I got a new phone number and completely severed ties with the past. I thought my new life would continue peacefully like this. Until a week later, while I was drinking tea in the courtyard of my rental lodge, I saw someone unexpected. Elena. She was wearing a simple white sundress, her hair falling loosely over her shoulders, her face showing signs of travel fatigue. She stood at the courtyard gate, staring at me quietly. The sunlight hit her, making her look less like an imperious CEO and more fragile. I admit, I was a little surprised. How did she find me? Why was she here? But after the surprise came calm. I wasn't the Caleb whose heart would race at a single glance from her anymore. I set down my teacup, stood up, and walked over to her. Ms. Sterling, long time no see. I greeted her politely, my tone distant. She looked at me, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something, but finally, she squeezed out a few words through gritted teeth. Come back with me. That commanding tone again. I smiled. On what grounds? I asked. On the grounds that. She seemed provoked by my attitude, but was trying to suppress it. You have to come back with me. Ms. Sterling, let me say this again. I am nothing to you anymore. Where I go and what I do is my freedom. You have no say in it. Caleb. She stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. Her hand was cold and gripped tight. What exactly do you want? Money? Status? Company shares? As long as you come back, I can give you anything. She spoke urgently, as if afraid I would vanish the next second. I looked at her and suddenly felt pity. To her, could every problem be solved with a transaction? I don't want anything. I gently shook off her hand. I just want to live my own life. A life without you. Do you understand? My words were like a blade, piercing deep in her heart. She staggered back a step, her face instantly turning pale. Why? She whispered, her eyes full of confusion and pain. Why has it suddenly become like this? Weren't we fine before? Fine. I felt like I heard the world's biggest joke. Elena, ask your conscience. In 5 years, did you ever give me a warm look? Did you ever truly see me? In your eyes, was I any different from a stray dog on the street? My question left her speechless. She probably never imagined that the man who always followed her, giving her whatever she asked for, had accumulated so much resentment. She opened her mouth, but couldn't say a word. Your father gave me $50 million to leave you. I calmly dropped the bombshell. Elena's pupils constricted violently. She looked at me in disbelief. What did you say? I said, your father paid me off. I looked her in the eye and repeated, word for word. And I took the money, so I left. It's that simple. In that moment, I clearly saw the light in her eyes extinguish bit by bit. She had assumed I left a play hard to get. She thought if she lowered herself to find me, I would wag my tail and follow her back. She never imagined the truth was so cruel and pragmatic. Her love, her dignity, in her father's eyes, was worth 50 million, and the man she thought loved her deeply had abandoned her for that money without hesitation. It was a double betrayal. She stood there, teetering, looking like a delicate flower ravaged by a storm. Tourists walked by, oblivious to the drama in the corner. I felt no pleasure seeing her like this, only the fatigue of detachment. "Elena, we're even." I turned to leave. "Stop," she screamed, her voice hoarse and laced with a desperate madness. I looked back. She had pulled a checkbook and pen from her bag. She scribbled a number furiously, tore it out, and shoved it in my face. "My dad gave you 50 million? I'll give you 500 million. Her eyes were red, staring at me intensely. Come back to me." I looked at the check. The number made my breath hitch. 500 million. This woman was truly crazy. Looking at the check worth $500 million, and then at Elena's face written with paranoia and madness, I had only one thought. Run. This woman was no longer stable. I didn't take the check. I just shook my head. "Elena, you don't understand." I sighed. "It's not about money." "Not about money?" She laughed hysterically. "Caleb, stop pretending. People like you, isn't it always about money? 50 million isn't enough? Then 500 million. A billion. As long as you come back, I'll give you shares in Sterling Corp." Her laughter was sharp and piercing, drawing side eyes for people nearby. I frowned. "Are you done making a scene?" "Me making a scene?" She pointed at her own nose, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Caleb, who is causing this?" "It's you. You vanished without warning. You disrupted every habit I've formed over 5 years. Do you know that without the breakfast you bring, my stomach hurts? Without you waiting for me when I work late, I get scared. And now you tell me you don't want money." Her accusations felt absurd. "Elena, get this straight. I'm not your personal chef, and I'm not your bodyguard. I am a living, breathing human being, and I have my own dignity." "Dignity?" She sneered. "How much is your dignity worth?" 50 million. My dignity is priceless." I looked at her and spoke firmly. "So, keep your 500 million. I didn't look at her again. I turned and walked away fast. "Caleb, stop right there." She screamed behind me, straining her voice, but I didn't look back. I was afraid if I stayed another second, I might blurt out the truth about the book. But logic told me I couldn't. That might trigger even more unpredictable consequences. I rushed out of the lodge, grabbed a taxi, and went straight to the airport. I had to leave, get as far away from this crazy woman as possible. I bought a ticket for the next flight abroad. Destination didn't matter. Sitting on the plane, I finally exhaled. However, I underestimated Elena. When I landed and turned on my phone, a news alert popped up. Sterling Corp CEO Elena Sterling announces she will use her entire personal fortune as a reward to find ex-boyfriend Caleb Vance. Below the headline was my photo, my college ID photo. I stared at the screen, dumbfounded. Her entire assets? The heiress of the Sterling Group? How many billions was that? She was turning the whole world into bounty hunters looking for me. I turned off my phone and buried my face in my hands. This had spiraled completely out of control. For the next few days, I lived like a fugitive. Elena's bounty caused a global sensation. I became the world's most famous ex-boyfriend. Everywhere I went, I felt eyes on me. I couldn't stay in hotels or eat at restaurants. I moved through cheap hostels like a vagrant. My passport info was flagged quickly. Within days, I was invited to a police station in a small town. I thought I was done for, but the person who came to bail me out was unexpected. Richard Sterling. He looked much more haggard than the last time we met. There was gray at his temples now. "Come with me." He glanced at me, his tone complex. I followed him onto a private jet. The atmosphere on board was oppressive. "Why?" I finally asked. "Why help me? Shouldn't he want me gone the most?" Richard poured himself a glass of red wine, took a sip, and spoke slowly. "Because Elena is losing her mind." He told me that after I left, Elena became a different person. She stopped working and locked herself in her room, her only obsession finding me. She didn't care about using connections or even tanking the company's stock price to force me out. "I didn't expect you to have such an impact on her," Richard said, sounding tired and defeated. "I certainly didn't expect her to love you this much." Even he seemed baffled saying the word love. "I gave you that money. That was my mistake." He looked at me earnestly. "I thought money solved everything, but I underestimated emotions. Caleb, I'm not asking you as the chairman of Sterling Corp. I'm asking you as a father. Please, Asking me to do what? Just go back and see her. He sighed. If you go back, you can name your terms. Money, shares, whatever I can give, it's yours. I fell silent. I never thought Richard Sterling would speak to me with such pleading humility. I looked at the clouds outside, feeling conflicted. Did I hate Elena? Not really. I was just tired of the humble, disrespectful life. Now I was free and rich. But was I happy? Living in fear, hiding every day. That wasn't the life I wanted either. Maybe it was time to end this. Okay. I nodded. I'll go back. But I have 3 conditions. Richard's eyes lit up. Name them. First, rescind that damn bounty and clarify to the public that this was a misunderstanding. Done. Second, I speak to Elena as an equal. I am not her accessory. You all must respect me. As it should be. Third, I looked at him. I want you to apologize to me in front of Elena. Richard's face stiffened, but he quickly recovered. He nodded solemnly. Agreed. The private jet landed on the Sterling Estate's private strip. I followed Richard into the castle-like villa. In the living room, a woman wearing pajamas, hair messy, was curled up on the sofa clutching a pillow, staring blankly at the TV. The screen was displaying a candid photo of us from college. It was our only photo together. I had paid a younger student to take it, pretending to walk past her, so I'd be in the frame. She had lost so much weight, her eyes sunken, completely devoid of her usual CEO charisma. Seeing her like this, I felt a strange pang in my chest. Elena, look who's here. Richard's voice was gentle, afraid of startling her. Elena slowly turned her head. When her gaze landed on me, those dull eyes instantly lit up. She blinked, as if seeing a hallucination. Caleb, her voice was terribly raspy. I nodded. The next second, she launched herself like a cannonball, hugging me tightly. Her body was trembling, holding me with such force it felt like she wanted to merge me into her bones. You're back. You finally came back. She buried her face in my chest and wailed, crying like a child who had suffered a massive injustice. I stood stiffly, letting her hold me. Richard watched this scene, sighed quietly, and turned to me. Caleb, I'm sorry. He apologized to me right in front of Elena. I was wrong before. I shouldn't have measured your relationship with money. I apologize. His attitude was sincere. Feeling the trembling body in my arms and listening to the suppressed sobs, the hardest ice in my heart seemed to melt. Maybe I was a transmigrator. Maybe she couldn't leave me because of the plot's settings. But in this moment, her tears and her embrace were real. I raised my hand, hesitated, and finally patted her gently on the back. I'm back. Elena's emotions gradually stabilized. She held my hand, refusing to let go for a second, terrified I would vanish again. We sat on the sofa, and Richard ordered dinner. At the table, the atmosphere was subtle. Elena kept putting food on my plate, asking about my well-being, displaying an attentiveness that felt alien. Was this the same iceberg CEO who used to ignore me? Caleb, try this. I had the kitchen make it specially for you. Caleb, you've lost weight. Eat more. I looked at the mountain of food in my bowl, half laughing, half crying. Enough, enough. I can do it myself. No, you have to eat it all, she insisted stubbornly. Looking at her red, bloodshot eyes, I eventually compromised. After dinner, Elena dragged me to see her room. It was huge, decorated in her usual cold style, black, white, and gray, but filled with traces of me. On the desk were all the small gifts I had given her. She had never used them, but they were preserved perfectly. In the walk-in closet hung a dress I once said looked nice. She had never worn it. And on a nightstand lay a photo album. Curious, I picked it up. Inside were photos of me playing basketball, me reading in a library, me waiting for her in the rain. All candid shots. I looked at her in shock. I had Chloe take them. She lowered her head, voice small. I was afraid I'd forget what you looked like. My heart felt like it had been slammed by something heavy. So, without me knowing, she had been secretly watching me too. Beneath that iceberg, there was a hidden fire. Just then, a cold mechanical voice rang in my mind. Detected intense, emotional fluctuation in protagonist. Love value breaching critical point. Plot correction initiated. Warning. World lines merging uncontrollably. Original male, lead, arrival imminent. My heart jumped. Original male led. The book I crossed into was a typical CEO romance. Elena was the heroine, but the hero wasn't me, the simp side character. The hero was a dominant CEO returning from abroad with an equally prestigious background named Julian Thorpe. According to the original plot, he was supposed to make a dazzling entrance after I, the heartbroken simp, had exited the stage, engaging in a battle of equals and love-hate romance with Elena. Now, because of my departure and return, the plot was totally scrambled, and he was showing up early. This was trouble. Before I could recover from a shock, the doorbell rang. The maid opened the door. A tall, handsome man walked in. He wore a perfectly tailored Armani suit, a faint smile on his lips, eyes sharp as a hawk. "Elena, I'm back." His first sentence instantly solidified the air in the living room. Elena saw him, and the color drained from her face. "Julian? You? Why are you here?" Julian Thorpe, the original protagonist. He ignored Elena's surprise, his gaze bypassing her to land directly on me. It was a scrutinizing, hostile look. "You must be Caleb?" He walked toward me, extending a hand. "Hello, I am Julian Thorpe, Elena's fiancé." "Fiancé?" I looked at Elena. She shook her head frantically. No, Caleb, don't listen to him. Our families arranged the engagement when we were children. Who in our circle doesn't know?" Julian smiled, a provocative edge to it. "You were just a pastime for Elena when she was bored. Now that I'm back, you should know your place and leave." His words were like a poisoned dagger, plunging accurately into Elena's heart. "Julian, shut your mouth." Elena was trembling with rage. "I have nothing to do with you. My only fiancé is Caleb." She rushed over, clutching my arm to declare her allegiance to Julian. I could feel her body shaking. She was afraid. I looked at this rival who had popped up out of nowhere, then at Elena standing resolutely by my side, and suddenly found it funny. What was this mess? I was a transmigrator who took the money to run. How did I become the center of a tug-of-war between two CEOs? "Elena, don't forget, your father has already agreed to our marriage. Furthermore, Sterling Corp's recent major projects require capital support from the Thorpe family. Are you sure you want to ruin the cooperation between our families for a man who isn't fit for the table?" He was threatening her. Elena's face went even paler. She knew Julian was telling the truth. Sterling Corp had cash flow issues and desperately needed the injection. That was why Richard had tacitly approved the engagement. I watched Elena struggling, then looked at Julian's smug face, and suddenly felt very annoyed. I patted Elena's hand gently to reassure her. Then I took a step forward, facing Julian directly. "Mr. Thorpe, is it?" I smiled. "You're right. I'm not fit for the table. However, I have a flaw. I have a bit too much money." I pulled out my phone, brought up my bank account balance, and shoved it in his face. $50 million was the breakup fee Mr. Sterling gave me. I haven't spent it. I'm giving it back. On top of that, I am injecting an additional $10 billion into Sterling Corp. There is only one condition. I paused, looking at Julian's face turning instantly ashen, and spoke clearly. "You, get out of here. Right now." The living room fell into a deathly silence. Everyone was stunned by my words. Julian's face cycled between green and white, as if he had been slapped 100 times in public. He had probably never suffered such humiliation in his life. He stared at the terrifyingly long string of numbers on my screen, his eyes full of disbelief. "Where did you get this money?" he gritted out. "You don't need to worry about that," I said coolly, putting my phone away. "You just need to know that right now, I am richer than you." "You?" Elena was stunned too. She looked at me, then at Julian, and suddenly burst out laughing. Her laughter sounded like ice melting, bringing spring back to the world. "Julian, did you hear that?" She stepped to my side, affectionately holding my arm, chin raised high. "My man is much richer than you. So, Sterling Corp doesn't need your family's investment." This was probably the biggest Waterloo of Julian's life. He thought he was the chosen one returning with a royal flush, only to be met with 4 aces. His face was hideous as he glared at me, looking like he wanted to kill me with his eyes. "Good, very good." He squeezed the words through his teeth. "Caleb, Elena, just you wait." With that, he slammed the door and stormed off. After he left, Elena couldn't hold back anymore, leaning on me and laughing uncontrollably. "Caleb, you were so handsome just now." I looked at her bright smile and felt an indescribable satisfaction. The feeling of smashing someone with money was incredibly satisfying. "Aren't you afraid he'll retaliate?" "Afraid of what?" "We'll cross that bridge when we get to it," she said indifferently. "Besides, now that I have a billionaire backing me, I'm not afraid of anything." Her eyes were sparkling with adoration and love. Just then, Richard, who had been silent, walked over. He looked at me, his gaze complex. "Caleb, thank you," he said gravely. I shook my head. "I didn't do it to help you. I did it for her." I pointed at Elena. Elena's face flushed red instantly. Richard looked at us and finally let out a long sigh, seemingly surrendering completely. I won't interfere in your affairs anymore, he said. Elena, decide your own happiness. He turned and went upstairs, leaving the space to us. Only Elena and I remained in the living room. She looked at me, eyes shimmering. Caleb, yeah. Shall we start over? She asked carefully, a trace of nervous tension in her voice. I looked at her expectant eyes, feeling a rush of mixed emotions. From a penniless simp to holding massive wealth and having the iceberg CEO falling for me. It all felt like a dream. I reached out and gently stroked her cheek. Okay, I heard myself say, because I suddenly realized, even without the plot settings, without the money drama, I seemed to still like this woman who cried for me and laughed for me. Maybe from the very beginning, I didn't cross into this book to conquer her, but to meet her. Story complete.